Shalom. This week we are reading Parashat Tetzaveh, the 8th Torah portion of Sefer Shmot, the book of Exodus, beginning the 20th verse of chapter 27. This portion is a direct continuation of the previous Parsha, Truma, continuing with instructions for the construction of the Tabernacle and the creation of all its details. Our Torah portion begins with God's command to Moshe for the children of Israel to take olive oil for kindling the menorah daily to Moshe. In summary, the first half of the Parsha deals with the divine command to fashion priestly garments for Aaron and his sons, the Kohanim. The garments of the high priest are the breastplate, the ephod, the robe, the tunic, the turban, sash, pants, and headplate, 8 garments in all, while the garments of the ordinary priests are 4, the tunic, sash, headdress, and pants. The second half of the portion is occupied with the offerings and other details of the inauguration ceremony of the Kohanim, which are to be offered for the inauguration of the Tabernacle. Our portion also includes the commandment of the daily Tamid offering, as well as the command to create the golden altar for the daily incense offering. Parashat Tetzaveh is generally read before Purim, and that's no coincidence, as we shall see, just as the Purim story itself, as seen over and over again in the story of the Scroll of Esther, teaches us that there's no such thing as coincidence at all. In fact, this Shabbat, upon which we shall be reading Parashat Tetzaveh, is also a special Sabbath called Shabbat Zachor, the Sabbath of remembrance, always the Sabbath that immediately precedes Purim. On this Sabbath, we will be reading another Torah reading as the additional reading, the Maftir, the commandment to remember never to forget the evil of Amalek, the forebearer of Haman, found at the end of Deuteronomy chapter 25. So, continuing with what we were learning about last week, this portion is a continuation, and all this time Moshe is with Hashem, studying Torah on Mount Sinai, 40 days and 40 nights. But last week's Parshat Truma began with the words, Hashem spoke to Moses, saying. And this week's Parshat Tetzaveh begins with the words, and you command the children of Israel that they shall take for you pure olive oil, without mentioning Moshe's name. And you. Neither is Moshe's name mentioned anywhere in this Torah portion at all. In point of fact, this is the only Torah portion throughout the remainder of the rest of the Torah, since the first portion of Shemot, Exodus, when he was born, that does not mention Moshe's name. How very unusual. A number of ideas have been offered that seek to address this mystery, but the accepted conventional wisdom ties this phenomena of Moshe's disappearance to Moshe's request of Hashem that we will encounter in next week's Parsha of Kitisa, at the time of God's anger with Israel in the aftermath of the debacle of the golden calf. Make a long story short, in response to God's anger at Israel, there in Parshat Kitisa, Moshe said, chapter 32 and verse 32, and now, if you would forgive their sin, but if not, erase me now from your book that you have written. Ultimately, God did forgive Israel, but according to this idea, this insight, Moshe, having said what he said, that can't be taken back, words have power and make an impression, a dent on the universe, especially when expressed by such a tzaddik, such a righteous man as Moses. Thus, even though God did not erase his name from the book, the request of Moses was symbolically fulfilled, because this week it is erased. And this week of the Torah reading of Parashat Tetzaveh always falls during the week of the 7th day of Adar, which is the anniversary of Moses' death. So this week, Moshe is not mentioned. The aforementioned is a very famous idea, but I don't think it's the last word. So if you'd open up your hearts in the deepest way with me, I would like to share another thought with you, because I don't find that idea to be a satisfactory explanation of this phenomena. Moshe's name not being mentioned is so unusual, such a great mystery. I would like to explore it further, with the help of the great Meor Einayim, Rabbi Nachum of Chernobyl. So, we are currently in the month of Adar, and our sages emphatically taught, when Adar enters, we increase in joy. Adar is a time of true joy. miracle of Purim. But the question arises, after all, the miracles of Purim did not occur until the 14th and 15th days of the month. Why then do our sages instruct us to magnify our joy already from the beginning of the month? But the fact is that the secret of the month of Adar is hidden in its name. How apropos, since the lesson is all about hiddenness. The word Adar is made up of the three Hebrew letters Aleph, Daled, Resh. Adar is an allusion to the idea of Aleph Dar, making the world into a home for the master of the world. God's desire to be welcomed into this world. Aleph alludes to God, as in the verse, "You are the master, aluf, of my youth," Jeremiah 3, verse 4. Just as the Aleph is the master, the first of all the letters, so too Hashem is the first, the precedence of all existence, which is the aspect of Adar, the Aleph dwelling in this lowly world, for he seeks to cause his presence to dwell together with his creations. That's the true source of Purim joy, which was revealed to the Jewish people through the Purim story. Now this past week, we marked the occurrence of another day, Zayin Adar, the 7th day of the month of Adar. We mentioned earlier that this is the anniversary of Moshe's passing. This is a rather special day, even if not observed as an actual holiday. But its story is really interesting. Open up your heart in the deepest way and listen to this. See, the wicked Haman did a lottery. That is the meaning of the Hebrew word Purim, lots. He threw lots for every day and month of the year to determine what day would be most auspicious to slaughter all the Jews. He determined that the best, the most successful day would be in the month of Adar, because this is the month of the passing of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moses passed away on the 7th day of Adar. Therefore, he reasoned, this is a very unlucky time for the people of Israel, the time they lost their beloved teacher, whose merit protected them while he was alive. The trouble is, say our sages, there was only one problem with his grand plan. He didn't know that Moshe was also born on the 7th day of Adar. Oops. As is the way with the perfectly righteous, Moshe lived a complete life to the day. So it's actually a very auspicious time for the people of Israel. In fact, the day before the 7th of Adar, 6th day of Adar, which occurred this week, Moshe completed his recitation of the book of Devarim, Deuteronomy, which he began on the first day of Shvat. Then he wrote down all 5 completed books as dictated to him by the Almighty. And the scroll was placed into the Ark of the Covenant next to the tablets of the law. All this was in preparation for his death. Now, ostensibly, meaning on a surface level, this teaching about Haman not knowing that the 7th day of Adar was also the day of Moshe's birth seems to mean just that the wicked Haman's information was flawed, his intelligence network was incomplete, his internet connection was down. It was a simple mistake, a lack of information on a simple calendar level. But I don't think that this is the meaning of this enigmatic idea. What? The anniversary of Moses' death was printed on all the dime store calendars and on the homepage of Wikipedia where it lists on this day, but that all these resources available to the powerful Haman failed to mention that it was also his birthday? Nobody knew that basic information? I don't think that's what it means at all, that he didn't know that it was also his birthday. I think our sages are telling us with their inimitable holy insight, not that Haman didn't know that Moses died on the same day that he was born, but that Haman didn't understand what it means that Moses was born on the same day that he died. As the Holy Zohar teaches, Moshe's influence is felt in every generation. Moshe's essence is the aspect of the knowledge of each and every Jew deep down in his or her acquisition of the knowledge of Torah. His essence is the aspect of the collective wisdom of Israel. And every single individual of the nation has some small spark of Moshe's intellect which aids in the acquisition and understanding of Torah, each person according to his or her level. Because Moshe was the master, the selfless teacher of all of Israel, whose dedication, whose selflessness was so great that he was able to say, if you don't forgive them, erase my name from your book. I can't be without them. I would rather have never been here at all, if not for my people Israel. Regarding Moshe, the Torah states, and no man knows his burial place to this day, Deuteronomy 34, verse 6. In addition to its plain meaning, there's another level of meaning to this verse, and that is exactly as we've just discussed. Moshe's presence is vitally felt in every generation and shines like a guiding light for every individual, and therefore no man knows his burial place because his presence is felt as a guiding force within the intellect of each and every Jew. So Haman thought that because Moshe passed away on the 7th of Adar, Israel's aspect of knowledge, which is what Moshe represents, their connection to Torah, was also dead, in which case he could best them. But he didn't know that Moshe was born on the 7th of Adar. As soon as he died, he was born as an aspect of the collective consciousness of the nation, which is felt by each individual who seeks to acquire the knowledge of the Torah on a sincere and personal level. And so too in our Torah portion. Open up your heart in the deepest way. Moshe's name is not mentioned because his presence permeates every aspect of the Parsha. And Moshe was intimately bound up with the tabernacle. The children of Israel were to bring the pure olive oil to him. He was to bring Aaron and his sons near to him. He was to anoint Aaron. He was to officiate at the inauguration. And as we shall later learn, Moshe was to construct the tabernacle single-handedly upon its completion. Only he could do this, could bring the tabernacle together to its completion so that the divine presence could descend. Moshe is here. The portion begins with the word ve'ata, and you. And the letter vav is the signal of continuation. But in the spirit of Adar, he is hidden in plain sight. The people of Israel are commanded to bring pure olive oil to Moshe. Olive oil represents wisdom. They are enjoined to emulate Moshe, who forever represents understanding of the Torah which is called after Moshe's name, as in Malachi, chapter 3 and verse 22, remember the Torah of my servant Moshe. Just as the children of Israel are commanded to bring the olive oil for the menorah to Moshe, so too recall that in the book of Numbers, they are commanded, speak to the children of Israel, and they shall take to you a para aduma, a completely red cow. Numbers 19:2. And we all know that only Moshe fathomed the secret of the red heifer, because Moshe is the connection of every generation of Israel. So I guess the joke is on Haman. Oops. And we find another teaching of our sages. Rav Elazar taught, when a person has knowledge, it's as if the Holy Temple was built in his generation. As we have seen, Moshe represents knowledge. Thus, this teaching is another enigmatic allusion to the connection between Moshe and the Holy Temple. Indeed, Moshe, representing the intellect, the collective wisdom of the people of Israel and their desire for Torah knowledge, Moshe forever has an inexorable bond to the Holy Temple, God's ultimate request of the people of Israel. Let me in, so that I can be for you a God. As we read in this week's Parashat Tetzaveh, I shall set my meeting there with the children of Israel, and it shall be sanctified with my glory. I shall sanctify the tent of meeting and the altar, and Aaron and his sons shall I sanctify to minister to me. I shall rest my presence among the children of Israel, and I shall be their God. They shall know that I am Hashem their God, who took them out of the land of Egypt, to rest my presence among them. I am Hashem their God.